Hello, and thank you for joining us for the Inviting Shift show. And we're here to listen to yet another awesome aha and shift that Barbara is going to talk about today. But just a real quick housekeeping before we start is I am going to actually lock this additional seat just for now until Barb gets through her entire story and we have good stuff and we kind of hear the gist of it. And then we're going to open it up for questions. I have questions. You guys are welcome to put your questions in the side. I'm happy to make sure that we get to all of them. If you're interested in being on the show, hey, just let me know and I'll see it in the comments and I'll reach out to you and let you know how to do that. Other than that, I don't want it to be any longer than that, but feel free to tweet or post it out to Facebook and share it because the more the merrier. So without any other ado, I'm just going to start in. I'm Christina Smith, and I have created this inviting shift kind of movement where I want people to be comfortable inviting these big changes and transitions in their life, because although we look at it as very, very scary, it's not always going to be scary. In fact, there's a lot of gifts in embracing the shift. And Barbara is actually going to tell us about some of those gifts today. And I'm very excited to have her joining us. And it's all worked out on a Tuesday night. Tuesday's been challenging for me. So today, no challenges. It's all smooth sailing. So Barbara, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and then a lot about your shift?
Awesome. Perfect. So my background, I am a life and confidence coach. That's what I do, and that's what my business is based off. And the reason why I do that is because of my shift. So pretty much, I guess I have to backtrack a little bit and tell you about my teenage years that were very, very tough. I grew up overweight and I had severe acne. You can't really see it much on camera, but I have scars all over my face. And while I was going through a lot of emotional turmoil and bullying in school, my parents were going through a separation. So it was a really difficult time for me. And another thing was that my parents had this Spanish mentality where they had to have a skinny daughter. So they were always putting me on diets and trying to help me out in their own way. And that really diminished my self-esteem and my confidence. So it made everything 100 times harder than what it should have. And even though all my mentors and my teachers and even just random adults that were friends with my family would tell me that I was great and I had so much potential, I just couldn't find myself to believe that. I just found myself to be ugly, unworthy, incapable, and it was just so difficult to believe that I, as a human being, could do anything. And after high school, one of the major things that happened to me is that searching for approval, that was one of my things. I was always searching for approval, so I was always trying to be someone that I'm not. And I embarked in a very toxic relationship just because I had a deep need for someone to accept me because I couldn't accept myself. I learned a lot. It was very, very hard. It was a very hard thing to go through, and I don't wish it upon anyone, but it made me a very strong individual. Going through 3 years of very difficult times with a partner made me a really strong individual. And it was really weird because I would always complain about this and everyone would tell me to leave, but I just couldn't. I wanted to, but the alternative to me seemed harder than just staying. And I also felt like if I left, what was it going to do? You know, I wasn't capable of anything in my own mind. So it was hard to make that decision. The decision to leave and make changes kind of happened gradually. There was one major life event that happened that made me decide, okay, it's time for me to move on and make changes in my life. And I followed my heart. I followed my heart, and I left my relationship. I quit my job. I changed my careers. I stopped going to school. At the time, I was going to business school, and I realized that I was only doing it because I wanted my parents to be proud of me, but I was just disappointing them because I was completely failing all my classes. So I made the decision to leave and move back with my mom, because that was one of the reasons that was holding me into that relationship. I was out living on my own with my partner, so I decided to move back in with my mom. And finally, I decided to embark in another beautiful relationship that was really scary. I had to gain a lot of courage to accept it, but I did. And once I did that, once I started following my heart and believing that I was capable of changing and shifting and amending to things, my whole world changed. My entire life transformed. And it all began with the thought and the belief that I could do it. And it took a lot of work, but I did it.
That's awesome. So you said that there was one thing that really pushed you, and I'm sorry if I missed it, but what was that one thing that really pushed you over? Like, you were making gradual choices, and then all of a sudden.
I had a really bad experience
Okay.
where it was very like abusive,
Mhm.
psychologically and in other senses. And that experience just made me make a decision. It just pushed me to decide, okay, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I mean. I think that happens with a lot of people is we hit that what we call like a rock bottom where we're like, okay, it can't get worse than this. I can't allow it to get worse than this. This is it. And and I think that's where we get that, and people kind of make fun of me, but in the women's organization that I staff in, we talk about this bitch energy, and it's that energy that comes up to protect us, and we go, no, 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 this is too much. We need a new plan.
Yeah,
So it sounds like you finally got that, final kick in the butt, kind of like, okay, that's it. This is the line, and we absolutely can't go past this anymore.
absolutely.
You
And
found your worth there, and that's awesome, because I think when we start seeing our own value, it makes enjoying our life a lot easier, because we start making choices that align with what we really want, and instead of saying, well, I don't deserve that, or I don't know if I can do that. It's such a powerful thing to go from I can't to, oh, well, what is possible? I have a lot of opportunities. And it sounds like, I mean, you completely changed your life around to the point where now you coach people in life choices. Is that right? Is that what do you coach on?
yeah, it's life and confidence coaching. So pretty much what I went through, and um, helping women believe in themselves, which is something I didn't do for a long time. And what you're saying about that rock bottom moment, it was crazy, because when that happened, the universe aligned to bring me a new partner, that really helped me get past this really horrible time of my life. So I
Mm.
feel like once you make decisions to shift and you want that, you want the change, I feel like everything is just conspiring to help you move past it. But you have to decide, and you have to believe that you can do it and stick through it, not just think about it. Oh, I think I lost you. It's okay. She'll get back on really soon. It's probably a connection. So how are you guys doing today? She's back on. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you're here. Let's just give it a second. Okay.
Hi, can you see me?
Yeah.
There we go. Sometimes, you know, free technology, it freezes too. But now I forgot what I was saying. But yeah, I mean, I think it's about inviting shift and just allowing it to come, you know, and saying, okay, I'm ready, you know, and until we actually say we're ready, you know, the universe doesn't know, and we can continue to deny it and fight it. I mean, like you said, you had friends that were like, oh, just leave him, you know what I mean? But it had to come to you looking at it and going, okay, well, there's not just two options, like I'm going to be burned on the street or I live here. You know, you had to come up with other options and keep your opportunities open to, you know, make your way out. And I think it's so much like you said, you know, sometimes people expect the aha just to be this big thing, like you've never ever thought about it before. And often it's this thing that you already know. You just have to really take in that point and go, right, you know what, there's got to be another option and I'm going to figure it out. So, I mean, I think that we have to ease our way into doing that. And
Yeah.
I'm aware.
And I do believe that we all have the answers within each and every single one of us. And yeah, of course, support is great. And there have been a lot of people who have helped me in my path, but deep inside, I'm the one making the choices, and I'm the one executing, and I'm the one pushing through. And I'm the one who's always known.
Yeah. And I think the best support, like as we teach, I've mentioned before that I belong to a women's organization. It's called womanwithin.org. And that's what we teach, that every woman has all the answers that she needs inside of her. Sometimes we just need to shake it up a little bit to find them, you know, or start looking at things from, you know, other perspectives. But we still have the answer somewhere in there that our intuition kind of drives us. And I think that that's so important. And you can have women support you to help you get there. But in the end, they don't provide the answers for you. They just provide really good questions to ask yourself.
Yes, that's like what great coaching is. And that's why I fell in love with coaching, because it's like, okay, it's not a dietitian telling me what to eat or what's good for me or what's bad for me. It's someone helping me discover it on my own. And I think that's why it's been so effective for me and so effective for my clients, because there's a difference between someone telling you what you should do than you actually realizing, okay, this is what I can do, this is what I will do, these are my next steps. It's honestly transformational.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, yeah, that's the key, is that is finding somebody who doesn't want to solve it for you. You know, like when I come home from work or when I used to come home from work, now I work from home, so it's easy. But when I used to come home from my 9 to 5 and I just want to rant and rave about my job, like I didn't want my husband to fix anything, like, and he'd want to fix it. He'd want to be like, oh, well, what can I do? Can I talk to the, we work together. So he's like, can I talk to, like, no, I can fix it. I'm a big girl. I just need you to listen.
Yeah.
I just need to be heard, you know? Sometimes we just need to be heard in our pain or our frustration, and that's really the bigger part of it, not necessarily the fixing. Because, I mean, it takes away our power for somebody else to fix it for us anyway, even if we wanted them to, you know? So we have to come to that on our own. A million people could tell you to leave this guy, or, you know, go there, do this, go to college. That was the big one when I was growing up. Go to college, get your 4-year degree. All your worries going to be over. Let me tell you, I have a 4-year degree and hasn't helped me a bit. So I love the message of this is basically do what your heart is calling you to do.
Yeah. And never underestimate the power of a good listener.
Yes,
Seriously.
that's a good one too. Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Jen. Jen just joined us.
Hi, Jen.
She'll be talking soon. I don't have the schedule in front of me. But that was great then. So you went through the whole cycle of shifts, which is really, really awesome. I was just writing today about the first part of shift, which is that like something ain't right stage, and you felt that when you were with somebody that you didn't really want to be with. And I was just thinking about how when women come to me and they're like, oh, but maybe the thing that doesn't feel right to me isn't enough. Like, shouldn't I be grateful? I get this question all the time. Shouldn't I just be grateful for what I have? And I feel that sometimes too. Like, why do I always need more and more and more in my life? Like, shouldn't I have, a nice job, a nice husband, a great family, everybody's healthy. Like, shouldn't I just be grateful? And yes, the answer is yes, you need to be grateful. Of course, we could all do with a lot of gratitude practice. And it's okay to want more, because I believe if you dream it, there's a reason you're dreaming it. Like, you're meant to have that thing, or else it wouldn't even occur to you to do it, So I just wanted to make that point because I was thinking about that so much today, about how women ask me, I think I was just asked this morning too, like, do I want too much? You don't want too much if you're willing to work for it. Like,
No, of course. And definitely a balance, just like everything else in life,
Mhm.
There will be things in your life that you're not going to fully like, but are you willing to compromise those things for the positive aspects that it brings you, But, at reading the questions that you might ask me, one of them was, oh my God, what was it?
Well, we'll go through them right now if you
Oh,
want.
cool.
Yeah, we'll go through them all. So what's
Cool.
one word to describe a situation when something wasn't right in the beginning?
Okay. I couldn't choose one word.
Uh-oh.
So
Yeah.
just pretend there's a dash in between each word, okay? Awfully hard, but totally needed.
Yes. That's a good sign of the beginning of a shift right
Yeah.
there. I don't want to do it, and yet I have to.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then one question you would ask someone else if they were in the same boat that you were back then.
That was the question.
Okay.
Is this really what you want?
Mm.
It's so hard for us to sit down with ourselves and ask ourselves honest questions and give honest answers. So is this really what you want? Just think about it, ponder, wonder, and whatever answer you give yourself, don't give it out of fear, Don't give it, yeah, this is what I want, because if I leave, then I'm going to be a failure and no one else is going to love me. That's not the right answer. You have to do it out of what it is that you really want without being scared of the outcome, or else it's not going to work.
Yes, that's a good one. And define success, because I don't like when people just say, I just want to be successful. Well, what does that look like to you? Because there's so many ways to define that. Like, be clear on what success would feel like to you. So that's a really great question. And also, I think sometimes, we forget to reassess what we want over life. What we wanted 10 years ago may no longer be true, and we still might be doing that as a goal just because we set that goal once. Well, do we still want that? You might want to look at that.
Yeah, again, balance. Like, of course, sometimes you have to push through, but it's okay to give it up other times.
Sure, absolutely. Okay. And how did you handle the challenges, or what did you say to yourself about the challenges? Like, maybe when you were trying to leave and, you get those voices of, no, you got to stay because blah, 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 blah. So what did you tell those voices?
It was a lot of, I had to continuously remind myself that I was worthy and that I was capable. And every time you make a decision, or at least this happens to me, every time I make a decision, you get obstacles and it's hard, but keep pushing through them. And like, that was my mantra. My mantra was like, no matter what happened to me and no matter what I had to do, what boss I had to quit to, or what house I had to move into, all the obstacles that I encounter, my response was always, I am capable. I am capable. I am capable. And again, the universe provided me with the most amazing partner that helped me through all of this. So that was a huge blessing.
Yeah, awesome. And sometimes it's just that, you know, just a short mantra, I'm capable, I can do this. Like, you know, it helps me anyway, depending on what it is. I make good decisions. That's one that I often use,
like that.
because you know, there's so many decisions in life that we can start over analyzing, and I just go, nope, I make good decisions, and I just make a decision and done.
Yeah, self-doubt is like really strong, very strong
Yeah.
at times.
And then what's one word that you would use to describe this shift, if you've been able to level it down to one word, if it's the entire shift?
A blessing.
That's nice. What's one thing that you're still trying to shift or working on shifting within you?
Well, confidence, self-esteem. I feel like that's something that, given my background, I always have to continue working on, because it's not like you said, like, oh, the shift happened, ta-da, everything's great. Obviously, I have my days. There's days where I'm very insecure, but I have learned to deal with that, and they happen less and less and less. And when they do happen, I am able to confront it and conquer it to the best of my capacity, and it just gets easier. So I think that's just something I'm going to continue working on shifting for the rest of my life, and be the best that I can.
Yeah, and it's like you said, we get more and more awareness about it. We catch it in the while it's happening, instead of, you know, afterwards and going, oh, I did that darn thing again. But it also, I find, like, some of our core wounds, they start showing up all over our lives in different places. So when it's like a mole, you know, like that BAPA mole, you bop it one place and it'll show up somewhere else. And it's just to remind you that, remember, you still have this wound and you're still working on it. I mean, there's some things that we're going to spend our entire life healing. It doesn't mean that it doesn't get better. It gets easier to deal with. It gets easier to see, easier to accept as we go along. But yeah, I would find it awesome to meet that one person who's like, nope, I've shifted everything. I'm good.
I would think that they're just full of crap. Like, if I hear someone say that, I'll be like, there's something wrong here.
Yeah, because it reminds me of that quote where, like, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. And even about ourselves, you know, every time I think I've uncovered, like, a lot of who I am, it's just opening the chasm of all the stuff that I don't know about myself. So that's a good one too. Yeah. What's one thing that you hope to do before you die?
Get married, and eventually have kids. I want to have a very successful business before I have kids, but definitely get married.
Nice. How many kids have you decided?
I'll start with one and we'll see how it goes.
That's a good way to start. And then what's one thing or one person that's made a huge difference in your life, that if you had a hashtag, it made the difference, that was that person or situation?
Nicholas Bonventry. That's my boyfriend right now.
Yeah, it sounds like that. And I find that amazing too, because, like, I know my husband, my current husband, has a lot to do with who I am now too. And I think I've told this story before on the show, but just in case I haven't, what was interesting is, for me, being with the husband that I am now, it was like changing a generational gap where like I felt like every woman before me had a certain type of husband that they married and then ended up really disliking. And me, I kind of chose a new kind of man. And I'll remember this always because my mom said, you know, I guess if you're going to be with a man like that, you have to be a different kind of person. And I'm not sure what she meant about it, but it was true. Like, I had to be the type of person who took responsibility for my own feelings, that took responsibility for my own actions. I had to be honest. I had to be completely direct in my communication instead of being passive aggressive. You know, all these things that I had been taught. I surely did have to become a different person, but I wanted to be that person, you know, and like I always look at it like, you know, every woman wants to be treated like a queen. Well, you know, men want to be treated like a king too. So it should be a balance of the relationship. It shouldn't be one way, and it can't be. I mean, if you really want to have a really fantastic relationship, it's got to be both sides are supporting each other to do their best. And I'm sure you can attest to that.
I just got goosebumps from like head to toes. I'm not kidding, because that is so true. And my mom didn't tell me that, but I just kind of intuitively knew, you know, like this is very special, so I have to be very special, and I want to be very special, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, it's holding what's sacred, really sacred, you know, and I'm glad you were able to do it younger than I was, because in my 20s I was a mess. And I didn't do so good on the first try, but I'm really glad for where I am now, because by him holding that mirror up to me and making me do my work instead of letting me blame him for things or whatever it is that I did in the passive aggressive ways, it was his ability to really hold me to the best of who I am. So I think a really great relationship helps both parties grow bigger instead of, you know, trying to keep you down.
Yeah, and habits arise. Like I'll do it. I'll do that too. I'll be like, oh, I'm doing this because of you. And he'll be like, no, that's not why. And I'm like, okay, you're right. It's not your fault. It's totally me. And I mean, it's great. It's great when you can bring awareness and come back to who you want to be.
Right, right. And embrace each other's wounds. I mean, we both have them. And I remember when I first started dating Charlie, he was in, so the men's flip of Woman Within is called the Mankind Project. And so he was in this thing called MKP, and he used to tell me, I'm not making you mad. And I'd be like, of course you're making me mad. I mean, I'm mad, and you said that thing, and of course I'm going to get mad. Like, and I would get so mad because I would be like, you're making me mad. And he'd be like, I'm not making you mad. No, you are, you know. And then when I finally went to the women's weekend, it was like one of the reasons was because I was like, oh, we're gonna prove him wrong. Like, I know I know he's making me mad. I know that this is his fault, you know. And I went to the women's weekend and realized that he wasn't making me mad. Like, and that alone was angering. See, Judy's clapping because she did the same thing. Her husband was in MKP too, and it took her a little while to get into the women's weekend. It took me a good 2 years. So, but, you know, and communication like that is important, though. I mean, it sounds like he's word copying me, but the truth is he's not making me mad. I'm choosing to be mad over whatever it is that he does. And yes, there may be reasons from my experience and my history that it makes sense to be mad at something like that, but he's not making me as much as I wanted him to be. But it's taking responsibility for your own feelings again, you know, and just like you did, taking responsibility for your own worth and saying, no, I'm really worthy and I have to stand up for myself. And I think that's something that people look at as selfish sometimes, but if you're not going to stand up for yourself and you can't convey your worth, then why should anybody else believe it?
Yeah.
You know?
And I have to stand up every day with my family. I was raised on guilt. So I had another
Catholic? Are you
podcast interview
Catholic?
today. No, well, yeah, my family's Catholic. They're not really super Catholic, but they are. It's
Yeah.
weird.
We
But
weren't super Catholic either, but we were raised with the guilt.
yeah, and it's just like I had another podcast interview today. I talked about the same thing where it's like now that I'm doing so many things, I feel guilt. Like even just saying bye, that I'm walking out of the house all day, it's like, oh, you're walking out of the house, and I'm like, yes, and it's okay. I'm growing. It's okay for me to grow, and I have like definitely taking charge of yourself and sticking up for yourself is super important for shift. And if you don't do it, no one's going to do it. And sometimes even the people that are closest to you are going to be the hardest to confront and defend yourself to, but are going to be also the ones that you should the most. I with my family, I feel like they push my buttons so much because they're the ones who put them there. So
you know exactly where they are and how to program.
Yeah, but I love them. I love them to death. I really am so grateful for them, but I definitely do have to stick up for myself and take care of my own emotions and of my own life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and creating boundaries. I mean, I think there's something really healthy in boundaries that people always forget, is that it's not about building walls. It's about showing people how you want to be treated. Look, I have this space. I need this space. And if you really respect me, you'll make sure I can keep this space, and it's a mutual respect. And I think it's just like children. People like to know where that line is because then they know where they can go to and where they can't. It makes it very easy for people to be around you, really, if they know where the line is. So often we look at boundaries as if they're creating space, and they're really meant to create connection. Yeah, Jen said that was a really good connection. They were the ones who put the buttons there.
Yeah,
I think it's tough.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think I heard that from Gabby Bernstein a long time ago.
Yeah, Gabby is awesome.
Yeah, she is.
I like her.
Boundaries. Yeah, I have a very good example that just happened recently. I'm trying on clothes in front of my grandmother, and I love her to death, but she always criticizes my body. And as someone who gains and loses weight all the time, I believe in health and self-love at any size. So as a confidence coach, I'm always trying to make myself feel good no matter what. And as I'm trying on clothes, oh, this fits you perfect, but you should work out your legs. And at that point, you could just like swallow it in and allow that to happen that time and on, or you can step up for yourself, and you may slightly hurt someone's feelings, even if you do it the nicest way, but you have to, like, it has to be done, or else the next time I try on clothes, the same thing's gonna arise, because no one, like, Wonder Woman's not gonna come to the rescue. She's not gonna be like, do not treat her like that. That is not what she believes in. Like, I have to do it.
Absolutely. And I find when I don't make clean boundaries, what happens is I stuff it and I stuff it, I stuff it. And then one day they say something that isn't even really that mean. And I'm just like, blah, 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 blah. I explode. And that's not healthy either. So if you address it as you go, I mean, it doesn't mean, we have a saying in my women's group where you can ask for what you want. It doesn't mean you're going to get what you want. So you can ask grandma not to say things like that. It doesn't mean that the next time she's going to stop, saying things, but at least you can say, look, this is one of those times, and I'm just not going to try on clothes in front of you anymore. Or I'm going to, you make your boundaries, whatever it is. Like, I'm going to walk away when you say things like that, because I don't want to believe that. So that's okay. It's not a threat to make a boundary. Like, some people are like, oh, well, if they don't do it, then what do I do? And it's like, then you take care of you. You do whatever it is that you need to do to take care of you. You don't need to take in anybody else's negativity. That's their choice. They can say whatever they want. They're not making you angry. You're choosing that reaction. So you can choose to take it to heart or not. And it's hard when it's people that you really care about and you love, and you have to realize that's about them, not really about you.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. So anybody else is welcome to jump in now. Barbara is kind of off the hot seat. She had some really great answers. But anybody else is welcome to join in. We're just talking about shift. Let me just check that. Nope. So we're just talking about shift and we're good. I'm really excited that I got the first chapter of my book done, finally done. I've had it all like sketched out. I keep adding like bits and stories to add in, but I haven't really compiled anything until today. So I felt like
Congrats.
I felt like a badass. I was like, I'm actually getting somewhere.
I'm assuming your book's going to be about shift.
Yeah, it's going to be about the whole cycle of shift as we talked about it. Yeah, so and it's going to have stories, some stories from here. If I use your story, of course, I'll make sure that I let you know. But some stories from here, some stories from my clients about shift and all the different stages of shift and how in each stage we can kind of invite shift and how we do that in each stage. So like the first one is the one that I was working on today was the something ain't right stage. So it talks about the two words I use for it is no matter what that piece is, it's the uncertain and the uneasy. Like those are the two feelings that people most feel. And you felt that way. I heard that, like you felt uneasy about where you were, but you were uncertain to leave because you didn't know what that looked like either. And it's probably the scariest part of the entire shift is because there's so much stuff that's unseen and you just kind of have to take those steps without knowing where you're going. So that's what I was working on today. Thanks, Jen, about my first chapters. No, the bus probably isn't the best place to type. Maybe you could talk to yourself. I've been thinking about doing this thing where you kind of talk and then let it transcribe. I don't know if that's the best way to do it. Have you considered writing a book, Barbara?
Yeah. Have you read Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic?
No, it's on my list. I still haven't read it though.
It's so good. It's a fantastic read. Like I totally recommend it. But I write for fun because I like it and it's cathartic for me. But eventually I do want to write a book. It's not something I'm focused on right now, but definitely in my bucket list.
Yeah, it's so fun. Like I really like writing too. I know there's people out there who are like, okay, girls, that's enough. Like they cannot stand writing. But I enjoy the writing process and like it occurred to me just a couple of weeks ago where I was like, okay, so what am I doing? And I'm like, oh right, I'm gonna focus on writing a book. And I'm like, really, this is what I'm going to do all day? I'm just going to sit around and write stuff? Like, people actually can do this? So, I mean, it's been very exciting to me. So I'm actually working on 3 of them at one time, but really focusing on one right now. So,
wow, that's a lot of writing.
It is a lot of writing. Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, and I still do a blog. I still do articles for other blogs, and I do marketing for some other people too. So I spend, yes, a big portion of my life writing right now, and I love it. So no complaints here. It's the way I just designed.
That's another shift I had. I have I'm Spanish. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm Spanish. And when I came here, I spoke no English at all. So in school, I was horrible. I never wrote anything in school. I did so bad. And I never thought I was a good writer. But it turns out somewhere along the way that shifted. I'm actually a pretty decent writer. So I feel like we have these major shifts, but we also have little ones that kind of just happen naturally, you know?
Absolutely. And it's probably from all that writing, from just like journaling and, you know, getting through all those transitions. I think that that helps so much, is to journal or just get your thoughts and your garbage out of your body, basically. I do something called morning pages. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, where you just kind of unload all of your anxieties, whatever's on your mind. It could be your grocery list, your, you know, your to-do list. It doesn't matter. Just get it all out on a piece of paper, because then it helps me meditate. I have to be able to physically get all of that stuff out of my brain, or else it just pops around in there while I'm trying to be still and quiet. It's like ding, ding, ding. But don't forget about that and that. So, I mean, even that can help, right? And I think that, you know, writing is a practice thing. Like, if you're going to write, you have to write. Like, that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Just because you have to be in that groove. And in order, like Elizabeth Gilbert, she's had that one talk about genius. Have you seen that, where the genius comes and visits you? I'll have to send this link to, it's an Elizabeth Gilbert talk. I can't remember. I don't think it was a TED talk. It was just a talk. And she talks about how genius is, they used to look at it like it was a spirit that came to you and would leave. So sometimes you'd have that genius spirit with you and sometimes you don't. And she said, she goes, all I do is show up, because I've done my part. And if the genius comes, great. And if it doesn't, hey, I showed up.
That's big magic. That's exactly what she talks about. That's why I love her book. And I love how she gives like a persona to all this untangible things out there, like inspiration, creativity, thoughts. Like, she gives them a personality, and it's so real. She's like,
Oh,
inspiration's gonna come, and she's going to want to create things. Are you going to listen to her, or is she gonna go and knock on someone else's brain? You know?
yeah, she's very visual, which makes it very easy to picture. I really enjoy her writing too. Now I'm really excited to go get that book, Big Magic. Because she is so inspirational. And it's amazing that when you get into that flow of being okay with just being creative, or just whatever that just thing is, that, you know, I've always overlooked it because it wasn't productive. It wasn't earning a paycheck. It wasn't, you know, what if I create this art and then what am I going to do with it? Nobody's going to buy it. Like, I'm not going to hang it. Why would I do that? You know, just letting go of that and really doing what we're doing instead of thinking about it. Because when we're actually in our creativity, we're a lot better than if we're thinking about being creative.
Yeah, that's all big magic. Go get it.
Yeah, I'm going to get it now. All right. Well, I think that's all my throat's going to let me talk for, because I'm getting really scratchy again. This is the first long conversation I've had since I got sick over the weekend. But thank you so much for joining us. What a fantastic shift, and a great conversation afterwards. I really appreciate it, Barbara. I will have this posted on the blog then, and with the link to the blab. Is there anything else you have for our audience before we let you go?
No, thank you. This has been so much fun, and I really love sharing my story. So thank you for having me on the show and being such a great interviewer.
Oh, thank you. You're very kind. I just sit. I already have all the questions, so I don't have a whole lot of work to do. All right, guys, we'll catch us on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. and Saturdays midday. And soon there'll be a bunch more that's scheduled during the week, but at unregularly scheduled times. So thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Bye. Thank you.